Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. The next Wasteless World Talks are here with Kevin, Bill, and myself to write on the back of a language towards the wasteless world. And we write all the time with one term, one word, and the word today is rose. So, Kevin, I will start with you because I have you on the top of my screen. So, if you close your eyes and you hear the term rose, what came first to your mind, please?
A quote by Shakespeare. A rose by any other name would smell so sweet.
All right. What about you, Bill?
Galena reminds us that a rose has thorns.
For the first time, really for the first time in almost 3 years, Kevin, you delivered the same answer as one of the person, Leslie, in the noon discussion. She
Hey.
read Shakespeare exactly the same quote.
It's synchronicity. It's a day for synchronicity, it must be.
It is. It is. And I feel this synchronicity to be much better than the one which is at the UN headquarters.
Yes.
Oh, that's a circus, baby.
It's hard to believe that everybody on the planet is paying such a circus to happen. But back to the rose. It was quite interesting discussion because we touched a lot of topics we did not expect it. For example, did you know that in Tanzania there are only 3 colors of roses growing? Red, white, and yellow. No other. And in Pakistan, the European, they call it the British rose, doesn't smell well, but they have their own rose, which has delicious scent or smell. And in China, they don't have roses as we know them. They have a very special flower which looks almost similar, but is different in a way how it grows and blooms and so on and so on. I don't know the detail. So very interesting.
So the rose means rose is a lady's name. Rose. I've known a couple of roses in my time. We used to grow roses at the house. Some of them smelled luxurious, almost intoxicating. You would smell it, and it would just you like you were drunk. And then right beside it would be another rose with no smell. I don't know how the bees figured it out, but uh, and and rose is also a verb, past tense of a verb. I rose and made my breakfast. Um, it's a very useful word in many different senses.
We had in England, we had the War of the Roses, which was the House of Lancaster, I think, with the red rose, and the House of York with the white rose, I think. Which actually is where more Shakespeare comes from. Now has the winter of our discontent been made glorious summer by the son of York. So things were going well for the white rose.
And the rose was very popular in the signs of this high-ranked society. We have many this I don't know how it's called this how they have this sign they use all the time. We have many in here as well. So the roses originally they don't exist anymore. Or there are very few remaining in my country, but they use the rose in the picture as well. Uh, what is interesting that do you know any use of a rose instead except for the perfumes?
In Denmark, they make marmalade with the rose hips. You
Uh-huh.
know, and it's called Huben in Danish, rose hip. So it's rose hip jam, rose hip marmalade. That is absolutely delicious. So you can eat rose or a bit of a rose.
Uh,
Kevin, what is a hip? I've heard
Rose
that
hip.
rose hips also, but what is it? Is it the petal or what is that?
It's a seed pod.
Hmm.
it is. It's no. It is not. It's just looks like very tiny, a tiny apple or pear. It's completely red. We make out of it tea. Generally, you pick it up. It's quite hard to pick it up because of the thorns, and it's not the standard rose. So the big one which you see in a vase or in a flower pots and so on, but they are, we call it wild roses. And this wild rose has many thorns, and you can pick it up in the autumn. You can dry it, and it's very, I don't know whether to call it delicious, but it's very healthy. It's very healthy. It's full of vitamin C.
Yeah, I think we call it dog rose, the wild rose.
We've been picking it up as children, and right now, time to time, I pick it up as well when I'm riding. So pick it up just to dry it and use it for the tea. It's really, really healthy and delicious, I will say. Uh, uh, it is interesting that the smell of any flower, but rose as well, is like a time travel. You know, when you have something in, I think Ussi was there, who talked about his auntie, who is, she's dead already, but he remembered very well her rose garden, and as he sat with her and learn about life and nature and so on. So he was fascinated about, and he said it's immediately bring me back to the moment when I was a child.
They say that works that there's something about the smell that it's very closely related or plugged into the memory. And I remember the first time I realized that I was walking down the street and I passed some woman who had this perfume on. It was the same perfume that my high school sweetheart used to wear, and I had not smelled it in 20 or 30 years. And all of a sudden, I was back there again. It's not as if I said, "Oh, gee, I recognize that. What is that?" No, bam, she was there beside me. It was amazing.
I
Yeah.
was the same. I had the same 2 years ago when I entered again a steel foundry, a steel factory, because I started as a steel factory worker. And I entered the one, very different one, because the old one is closed already, bankrupt and so on. Exactly the same bill. At this moment, I was there. What is interesting that it is not the thorn which reminds us. So it's not the negative, but in some way the positive feeling which brings us back.
Might it be the negative feeling for some people?
I think Leslie mentioned that okay, we remember roses as something good, but usually roses are used as well at funerals.
Hmm.
And she said, yeah, it reminds me right now because of somebody left of a funeral. But I choose it because Jane loves roses. So she simply loves roses, and she looks like a rose to me. And it's such a beautiful flower. And I just bought her recently a one which is multicolored. It was quite interesting. They said it's not artificial. I think it's somehow, but not colored itself, but somehow it grows in multiple colors. It was quite interesting to look at.
There are some conventions in In England and Denmark, a guy will give a girl 12 roses. But if you do that in Russia, it's considered extremely poor taste. It has to be 14. If you only give 12, you're a bit of a skinflint.
In my country, we use something, they call it the flower language. For example, if you give, and I don't know, 1, 3, 5, it's something negative. Or no. If you give 2, 4, 6, and so on, it's negative, but you have to give 3, 5, and so on to be a positive. And there are a complete language. I don't know the language, but I was reminded when I bought when we celebrated our 4th anniversary on last week. So I picked up 4, and she said, the lady in the shop says, you should pick 5. So I picked 4 plus 1 another to be a positive.
Actually, Michael, I think maybe you're right. That's what I was confused with, because in Russia, it's the same. You have to give an odd number, not an even number.
Yeah,
but 13 is no good, so it has to be 15.
Well, since we're speaking about numbers, my mother celebrated her 80th birthday. This is 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and we drove over to see her, and we stopped when we got to her town, went to the store, but the only roses they had were um, were 65 or something. So we bought them all and opened them up and put them all together, and and we knocked on the door. She came to the door, and we said happy birthday, handed her the roses, and she said, "Oh, 80 roses." And then she painted a picture of them and named it 80 roses. And only Galena and I know that there were not 80 there. There were everything that the store had, but it was not 80. But in her mind, it was 80. And that's all that counted.
You know,
The other thing about roses is the feel. It's softer than velvet. It's such a beautiful feel.
What is interesting, and this is why I ask whether you know about some other utilization. Usually, how it's called, the green part, stem.
Stem.
The stem is usually just used to hold the top, but when it's not used anyhow. But I have read that the structure of the stem is very strong. If you try to break it, they are so tiny, whatever. And I think you can make out of it. It will behave similar to materials from which you can make clothing. I think. So it will be quite interesting, and I would like to talk about it in Bulgaria, because in Bulgaria they have a lot of roses. They have an entire industry dedicated to roses, so it will be industrial planting, and they will have a lot of those. So I would like to investigate more. It will be nice to have a rose T-shirt. Instead of bamboo, we will have a rose. If it will work, not sure.
Have you guys seen blue roses?
Blue roses, I have seen them, but I was not sure whether it's. I have seen a physical whatever process, as they put something in the water, and the roses change the color, and one of the colors was blue.
Yeah, because
Never heard that.
Rose growing societies, and of course they want to make their own hybrid versions of it. And it's like the ultimate is to get your rose accepted into the Bible of stuff. But the ultimate goal was to produce the blue rose, because it doesn't exist naturally in nature.
I have seen black ones.
I have seen black ones. Where did I see it? Maybe they are colored. Um, was it in a movie and somebody gave somebody a black rose and that was like the kiss of death? And that would that'd go good in a book.
You know, what we touched in the noon discussion was quite interesting, and you touched it, Abel, at the beginning. You said that the rose is the name of female, and they are more in Czech. Rose, you say růže, and the name of female as a gill, you say růženka. So as a small rose, generally, there is a fairy tale about it as well, and so on. And there are more names of females which are based on plants, like lily. But we didn't came to a single one which is like for a man.
No.
Well, that sort of goes back to the sexism that we are raised with, that a man is supposed to be hard, strong, like a rock. So you have Rock Hudson, you have the name Rock, or but not something dainty like a flower.
On the other hand, if you have a trouble with roses and you would like to get them rid of your garden, it's a really tough work, especially if they are these wild ones. They can protect themselves very well, very well. So I think that it's a really battle.
The Vikings, they have a lot of tough names. So I was once working with a guy, he was from Iceland, and his name was Ørn. And Ørn translates to eagle. And another common Danish name is Steen. Again, these are only guys' names, and that means stone. But yeah, the girls tend to have softer names. Lily and there's one interesting thing in English. There's a name, you know, if it's if there's a girl, you know her, and you don't want to use her own name, you can call her Petal, which is kind of cute.
We have similar. It can help a lot of in a relationship, especially if you forgot the name of your girlfriend. That's a universal one. You can say my sunshine or my petal. It's really good. I never tested, but I have heard about it from my friend. The question is why we choose the rose to be so extraordinary, to be so special. I think there are other beautiful flowers in the world. And when I look at the roses, it's even the rose is the structure, it's very special. Every single one is slightly different. Is this the reason? Because I don't think it's so hard to plant a rose. But maybe it's hard to plant a beautiful rose.
I think it is the fact that it is beauty and the beast, that it is armored. That you know, you can look at it, but if you get too close, you will get scratched. So it can defend itself. So it has values that we respect.
Do you think that the rose is the sign of peace?
No.
I'm not sure there's any sign of peace today, is there? A sign of peace would be something that mankind has decided, either in literature or through custom, has decided. I don't know. Kevin, you were about to say something.
No, I mean, try and find any physical evidence of peace, let alone a sign. It's quite difficult these days. These are not peaceful times.
What I was surprised that in China there has been no roses, so the no English roses. And Tracy explained that there is, as I said at the beginning, something similar, very similar flower, but it grows a special way. So every day one blossom or whatever, some special style of growing, and it looks similar. But she said there are no roses. And she has one more comment because she's living almost all her life probably in the US, and she has in her garden she has bamboo and roses, tall one. She said 6 feet tall, and she said my roses never bloom to the full extent. They stop all the time somewhere in the 3/4 or so, but never full extent. And I was surprised about because I didn't know about it. So, and the War of Roses, of course, the famous movie. Why it was called the War of Roses? Do you remember the movie?
Yeah, with Kathleen Turner. Yeah, it was Mr. and Mrs. Rose.
Okay. And do you remember the last time when you gave roses to your wife or girlfriend?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
And have you ever received roses?
No.
I don't think so.
I remember once in Copenhagen, I'd met this girl and we were going to go on a date. So I went to in the center of town, there's a big flower market. So I went there after work to buy her 12 roses. And I got there and I said, could I have 12 roses? And the guy said, I can't sell you any roses. We're closed. We close at 6 o'clock, but I can give them to you. Which I thought was just the coolest thing. It was so really start of a great evening.
That's good. Good karma.
Yeah.
It's all the time interesting. What I was surprised when Jane get flowers, including roses, she cut them. This is what I know. You cut it, they drink better, and so on. But she put sugar in the water. It's unbelievable how the roses or how the flowers enjoy the sugar. They get stronger, the head goes up, and for several days they are like new ones. I never heard about it.
I never heard that. Interesting.
So we
That's
are
because
sure.
no one gives us roses.
That's right. That's right. I'm going tomorrow again, and we will celebrate the birthday, and it's a wonderful time, you know. And I have it associated with roses and hearts. That's another question. Usually, roses are somehow pictured with hearts. Is it because the petals look similar? The shape of the heart and the shape of the petal. It looks, when you look at it, it may look similar. Or is it just because both are most frequently associated with love and the feelings of love?
That would have been my guess. But I don't know.
It's funny in Denmark, the red heart is a Christmas symbol.
Oh, really? I never
Yeah.
heard that.
Yeah.
The red heart is Christmas.
Is there
Okay.
is there any story behind it?
There must be, but I don't know what it is. But it's in the street. They decorate every street with garlands, and the symbols are white stars and red hearts, which is kind of nice.
when we speak about the symbols, and you said you cannot right now come with any peace symbol. What is the symbol of war when we speak about peace and war?
Well, we have the peace symbol, which is the circle with the lines in it. And that started being popular during the Vietnam protests in the 60s. The war symbol, war. I don't know. Kevin?
No, I don't know either. I think, yeah, flags quickly become symbols of war. But no, I don't know. I think that no, I don't know. Strange. One of the really nice symbols of peace, but it was an action, not a symbol. It was, I think, it was also in Vietnam, where soldiers were standing in the streets during the demonstrations in the U.S. and people were putting flowers down the barrel of the rifles. I think that is such a great symbol of peace.
Um, every single time we try to find the opposite. What about a rose? Can we find the opposite to a flower?
Uh,
Maybe the stone, maybe something what is not living, what is stable, what is faceless, because I think a rose has face, many faces. Depends on from which direction you look at it. And
and it's almost living.
even if you dry it, still it has somehow its memory inside a dried flower. And you remember if you get it and you remember, many keep this way the roses from or the flowers from marriage, or when you are 50, you get 50 roses. It's a lot of. If you dry them, you will remember it all the time. And I think you will get exactly the same or very similar feeling of a time travel being there when you look at it.
My mother used to put a rose, when she got a bouquet of roses, she would put one rose in a book, I think in the Bible. And then she would go back, years later, and she would come to that rose again, and then she would tell us the story of where it came from.
That's nice.
I think if you look at opposites, if you consider a rose an event rather than a thing, then a rose is summer. And so the opposite of a rose would be winter.
Yeah, that works.
That's interesting because summer is life, winter is, I will not call it death, but it's something which is still standing still in some way.
Yeah, summer is outdoors, winter is indoors.
Just wondering, can you imagine to write a book or a movie about a rose?
There is the name of the rose,
which is Umberto Eco, the original, and then Connery Unbelievable in this role.
Yeah, it is a great film. I read the book, but that book is extremely difficult, I think.
Umberto Eco in general, it's quite a difficult to read. I love it, but I think it is one of the few movies which are better than the book, for me at least.
Yeah, yeah.
It's quite interesting that such a common term, I think, is one of the very rare occasions when there is a lot of silence in our discussion. And still it is the next standard word. And we all the time have something to say. And this time,
a rose is somehow it's a private thing. It's one-on-one with a rose. It's you interact with the rose in a very deep way, very personal way.
Is it similar?
That's a good point. Yeah, good point, Kevin. There's so much emotion tied up with the rose, but it is very personal.
And I know already know what will be your next move after the discussion, or at least in 1 week time. I cannot say it, but something tells me you will visit a store or you will pick it up and you will hand it over to remind yourself and to remind the loved ones that you are there, that you are so close together. And that's exactly the great feeling. I know I will do it tomorrow. I know it. And it's such a simply great feeling.
Well, if you've not done it in a while, after talking about it now for the last half hour, you are reminded of how much you like to express your love. And so I will do it too. Shh, don't tell her. Okay, it'll be a surprise. But yeah, it means a lot to me to be able to say I love you to someone else, or to in fact give kindness, or to give something from your heart to somebody else, even if it's a stranger walking on the beach, but just to be nice, especially today.
I just, before we started, I just checked. There was an event in which Elon Musk took place. It was all about space, something like that. I don't know the name. And once again, he promoted, or he said that till 2055, there will be people living on Mars. And I'm just now thinking, whether he will be the first one who will move out, and the second, whether the people will meet all the time at a Hyperloop station before they enter the rocket, because for me, it's one of the next objects which are being promoted. But what I would like to say, it's not about roses, but it's about the latest movement of the late night show cancellation and the reassignment. That was interesting. That was really interesting. And I just wonder whether they will keep him. Time to time, I listen to this late night show on YouTube. And I was really surprised that they give him the work back in just 2 days. And I have read that the president is not happy at all. So, which doesn't make me sad, to be honest.
I don't know anything about Jimmy Kimmel, but just going back to Elon Musk, if you think about it, Mars is smaller than Earth. I don't think his ego could take living on a small planet.
He will be like
it's going to have to be, Saturn, Jupiter, one of the giants. That's where he will go.
Or maybe he imagined himself as the little prince. I imagine the cover where he was really a big man on a small planet, Fox sitting next to him. And that will look like on Mars, probably, We have to rename it. Mask and Mars.
Of course.
Mask and Mars sounds almost similar, so.
Yeah, and the moon can be called Elon.
It's quite interesting, we took something out of nature, something which is extraordinary, but in other perspective, it's just a flower. and we spend an hour with that. Yeah, we have been silent, but I think that the silence is somehow associated with the rose. Because if you hand it over to your loved one, you don't need to speak. It express yourself the best way. Even if you are sad and you are in a funeral, it's exactly the same. It can be exactly the same rose, exactly the same color, and still it will deliver very opposite feelings to you. And I think this is exactly what nature does. It's just about us how we receive this message, whether we are able to receive it, whether we look just in a display. I was just there when there was a simple question, I think in a school, uh, and the kids should answer, what have you done over weekend? 80% of the kids took the smartphone and asked AI, what have I done over weekend? Horrible. And then I have seen an adult which have his Facebook profile, and he was great. We talked, we discussed until the moment when a message came. You have a new message. And he was in my age. He took the mobile out, and he's completely switched off the entire world. He was just watching in the message, and there was the next one, next one, next one, and he was not there anymore. And I think the rose can be, and it is, something like a key to the door which is being closed by someone. But if you give this person, and I like your comment, Bill, that it must not be the loved one, it can be anyone. Just try to hand over a rose. The behavior, the smile, the eyes, it will completely change your day and the day of the person. And this is why I think we have to talk more about nature and be in nature as you are. I like your walks on beach, so it's really great, and it is not only that. And I would like you, if you can, Bill, ask your grandchildren what they think about a rose. Just what will be the answer of the 4 years old or 8 years old, or I don't know. What will be their answer? It will be very interesting to know.
It will. I will ask, and I will tell you. It will be something. I can tell you now. It'll be something I don't expect.
And that will be great again. We have 1.5 minutes left. So once again, great discussion.
One quick thing I was thinking, if you give a rose, the one thing you'll get back is last week's topic, which is a smile.
And even more interesting, because you said you never received a rose. What will be your feeling if someone handed it over to you? Just to enjoy this feeling. But we have last minute left, so thank you for a great discussion again. I hope it will be as successful as the last one about smile. And I would like to wish you have a nice time free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, be free, be human, and enjoy the smell and touch of every flower, the rose included. And see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.